My name is Noah Vane, and I am 35 years old. It was Christmas Eve. At the huge mahogany table covered with a tablecloth and set in my father's house in the Seattle suburbs, there was the smell of roast turkey, rosemary, and expensive Cabernet. My younger sister Olivia, leaning gracefully over a dish of roasted potatoes and cranberry sauce, said loudly, so that the sound reached every corner of the dining room, 35, and you still fly home for the holidays alone? Wow, Christmas must be damned lonely when you have to share it only with your blueprints. Her voice cut through the general noise of the conversation like a scalpel blade. Everyone laughed. Most of all, my father, Richard Vane. His laugh was always booming, rich and deep, filling the entire room. Mom, holding a glass of wine in her right hand for a toast she was about to make a second later, just smiled her soft, all-forgiving smile, in which not a single muscle had changed in 30 years, and said softly, "Oh, Noah, honey, she's just joking. You know, Olivia." I neatly set my glass of mineral water on the table. I hadn't said anything yet. But here is what none of them at that table knew. I didn't fly home to Washington from Oregon just to listen to another serving of family wit at dinner. I flew here because exactly a week earlier, a thick beige folder landed on my desk in Portland. At the bottom of the main contract in that folder stood my own signature, under a contract I had never seen in my life, written in a handwriting that merely tried to imitate mine. Welcome to Stories About Quiet Dramas. Here we talk about women who kept other people's peace for a long time, until the price of that peace became too high. About those who learned to stay silent so as not to break fragile family vases, until they realized that those vases had long been filled with poison. Grab a cup of hot coffee, get comfortable, and read this story to the end. Before I tell you what happened next, you need to understand who I am. Because according to my family, my personality and my profession are two parallel worlds that never intersect. I am a hydraulic engineer and hydroacoustician. I design closed water systems, dynamic reservoirs, and acoustically isolated water volumes. I build spaces that hold water and sound as reliably as a good ceramic cup holds hot coffee. Not a single drop missed, not a single extra echo, not the slightest leak of pressure. I created the water acoustics design for a concert hall in Vancouver, developed a noise attenuation system for a giant aquarium in San Francisco, and designed a children's hydrotherapy clinic in Chicago, where the noise of pumps and filters is now completely dampened by the special structure of the wall partitions. I literally taught concrete to absorb the harsh roar of mechanisms, turning it into a barely audible whisper of the ocean's surf. I built my own engineering practice from scratch. I started with a rented desk in a damp basement and a second-hand ultrasonic sensor borrowed from a former teacher. Today, developers and architectural firms fly to me from all over the country to set up silence and flow in their most expensive projects. My family knows none of this. Not in any way that counts. To them, I am the daughter who left. The daughter who didn't get married on schedule. The daughter whose life is a convenient target for jokes between the main course and dessert. I hadn't been to my father's house in Seattle for almost 2 years. And I hadn't planned on coming this year either. But on Tuesday, Dale called me. Dale was an old mechanical technician who had worked at my father's fluid dynamics firm, Vane Fluid Dynamics, since I was knee-high to a grasshopper. Dale was the very person who once taught 14-year-old me to solder pressure sensors and read hydraulic diagrams. He called me in the evening while I was sitting in my office and said in a low voice, trembling with emotion, "Noah, I'm speaking very quietly while there's no one in the shop. They're on the verge of selling the patent for the Vane 1 hydroacoustic panel. Investors. Big money. A multi-million-dollar contract. And your father keeps telling them that all rights are clear. Everything is transferred to the company. Everything is in the family." Dale paused. "Noah, I remember you drawing those diagrams when you were 16. I never saw your signature on the transfer documents. Did you sign over the rights?" I hadn't signed anything. That was the moment I booked my plane ticket. Not for the roast turkey, not for Mom's holiday toast, but for a single line in a document that I needed to see with my own eyes before I allowed anyone to convince me that I was imagining things. Because a signature is a small thing, a little squiggle on paper, until it belongs to you. And until someone else decides that everything that belongs to you belongs by right to the whole family. But all of this still lay inside me, like a rolled-up steel blueprint, while we sat at the holiday table. And none of them suspected a thing. Olivia was on a roll. My younger sister manages the marketing department at my father's company. In practice, this means she is a master at deciding which version of the truth people are allowed to hear. I'm just saying, Olivia continued, spearing a slice of boiled carrot on her fork, that some of us made choices in favor of the family. Some of us built real things. And Noah, what is it you do over there again? Make water stop making noise in pipes? Laughter broke out at the table again. My father set his fork down and made the very gesture he always made. The gesture that in childhood used to make me feel safe, as if I were under the wing of a great man. He spread his arms wide, as if blessing the entire dining room, and said in his deep, velvety voice, Now, that's enough. The Vane family built something truly worthwhile. For 40 years, the Vane name has graced the facade of our engineering building." He looked around at everyone with a warm, absolute, unquestionable gaze. "And whatever any of us does, we do it for the name. The family name always comes first. It always has been, and always will be." Everyone at the table nodded as if a holy commandment had just been read. Mom topped off the wine glasses again and murmured softly, "Let's not turn the holiday dinner into a production meeting." That was her favorite phrase. She uttered it every time even a drop of real, raw truth tried to rise off the floor to the surface. I felt the familiar childhood desire to shrink, to pull on a polite smile, to laugh along with everyone, to become smaller, more invisible, so that the evening would go smoothly, without a hitch. For 15 years, I had been doing just that from a distance. For 15 years, I was that very quiet room where nobody had to listen to hard conversations. I looked at my glass. I looked at Mother, well-groomed, glowing, holding her glass at chest level, and for the first time in very many years, I did not shrink. I just set my glass down softly on the white tablecloth, the way you gently lower a heavy load to the ground that you no longer intend to carry. "Don't worry about me, Olivia," I said. My voice sounded surprisingly even, almost kind. "I've been married for quite a long time." The table didn't just go quiet. A vacuum-sealed effect took hold. "You have to understand, I know silence professionally. I can tell by ear the difference between a room that is simply empty and a room that is holding its breath in fear or shock. This was a room of the second kind." Mom's glass froze in midair, tilted slightly. Her smile remained on her face for another half-second, just like the image smiles in an old photograph when the person himself has long since left the room. Olivia's fork slipped from her fingers with a dry click and struck the porcelain plate. "You're what?" my sister re-asked. "Married," I repeated, calmly crossing my hands on my lap.